name's Adam Strauss, and I have obsessive compulsive disorder.
If you have OCD, raise your hand 6 times. I don't call 911 because I want the cops to come to the house. I call because I have some burning existential questions and no one else is picking up their phone.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for listening. My guest this week is Adam Strauss. He is a really interesting dude. I've known Adam for quite some time. I believe he's originally from New York. Met him out in LA when he was out visiting one time and did a show, and we just hit it off. He's done some great stuff. He's done a long run in New York City with his one-man show, The Mushroom Cure, which we'll talk about, and you'll have show links to. So enjoy my talk with Adam Strauss.
Cool. All right. Yep. I do sound mysterious and deep. Good. Perfect. Sweet.
So what's up, man?
Good to see you. And thanks for the flexibility. I felt kind of silly even asking to move the time based on a brunch, which is something I would never do under ordinary circumstances. But I just got to New York about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And we can catch up on pandemic stuff or not, but the past 9 months, I had been exclusively with family. I had not had an in-person conversation with someone I was not sharing significant genetic overlap with. That's not true. There were in-laws. There was a brother-in-law and sister-in-law occasionally, but I was related mostly via blood, sometimes via sibling marriage, to every single person I had an in-person conversation with for 9 months. And then I dropped into New York about a little bit more than a week ago.
Wow.
And yeah, I've really been enjoying engaging with people.
Yeah.
And some close friends were like, who live in Brooklyn. It's not like I can't ever see them, but they're like, oh, we're coming in for brunch. And I was like, oh man, that sounds good. Whereas ordinarily I'd be like, no, it's a Saturday. I have this podcast. I have shows. I don't have time. And now I'm really, prioritizing the social aspect, which feels good.
It's great, man. I'm just similarly like just allowing myself recently to go out and be with people and getting a little more comfortable. It's bizarre, man. This has done damage. I don't want to spend too much time on it because, like, thank God it's gone. But I mean, you can't not talk about it. Like, this is the thing I've been thinking is like, I need to process by talking to other people, and I haven't been with other people nearly at the rate I'm used to. You know, like to bounce your own stupid ideas off of and keep yourself together. It's difficult.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but it's true. I mean, so much of processing stuff emotionally, obviously there's a component, maybe even the bulk of it. I suppose it depends. It varies from person to person where you are processing things on your own, but so much of it is sharing with other people, whether they're just lending an ear, whether they're providing empathy or feedback, practical feedback. And that has been, this is something that, I mean, I think to varying degrees, obviously you're married and have a family. I don't, though I was with my family of origin, as mentioned. And prior to that, I was with a girlfriend. I actually spent more time with people during the pandemic than I have since the last time I cohabited with a lover, which was 18 years ago.
Wow. Wow.
Because ordinarily I live alone and I see people, my typical existence is I was lucky enough to be able to quit my day job in 2016 or so. So generally I don't see people during the day, and then I do shows at night and I see people. Yeah. Whereas for the entirety of the pandemic, I was living with people.
Yeah.
And so I was I was spending more time with people, but I was spending that time with a very, very, very limited subset of people.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a different way to go. I think from an ideas standpoint and just bouncing things off standpoint, nothing beats, 5 or 10 comics a night chatting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In terms of either validating your insanity or completely tweaking it in some way, and or
making you feel less insane in comparison to
Exactly.
I think I often serve that function. I'm like, you guys think you're crazy? Here's what's going on in my brain. But it's true. It is. I mean, the green room conversations, even if it's a bar show without a green room, is one of the things that I'd appreciated it before, but in its absence, you really appreciate, or I really appreciate it. Just what a special aspect that is of the whole comedy thing.
Yeah, it's crazy, and now I see that the the podcast has moved for me. There's no substitute, obviously, but it's also another way that as we do come back and do start having shows again, we still have that. Now I have this other extra one because there's this other channel for conversation that I wasn't really giving the credit it was due around, like you see comics after a show, but maybe you chat with them for 10 minutes. Maybe after the show you hang out for a little while, but it's not in depth, right? Like you and I have known each other for probably close to a decade, but I've been in the room with you 3 or 4 times, and definitely but definitely connected on some level to you. And like, I'm like, oh yeah, he's my friend. Like that guy's my friend. Like, it's interesting, so all that to say, like, that's why I love the podcast medium too, because now I'll get both, right?
Yeah.
The in-depth part, if I want, if I choose to, and the camaraderie and just that regular social thing during, for shows. So I'm psyched, man. I'm psyched to talk to you. It's been a while, and I think I've been touching on the podcast a lot for, like, I won't say like coming out, because I mean, my friend that told me, I was like, my kid, like I've been thinking about my kids and explaining drugs and in quotes, drugs.
How old are they now?
14 and 10.
Okay. So getting to that age, certainly older. Yeah.
So I was talking to my buddy, and I was like, man, this was like 2 or 3 years ago. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to talk to them about drugs and my thoughts on, especially psychedelics and they're a very sacred place in the world, but it's still, they teach them in school kind of almost just this side of just say no still, you know what I mean? So he's like, dude, you don't have to. You're on the internet, like literally writing about it. Like, just be straight about, so, but the thing is like, I still didn't realize how small the bubble is of people. It's getting more mainstream now, obviously. It's going bananas, cover of New York Times and stuff, which is great. But like, there's still a lot of people that you meet that are just like, I don't know what you're talking about, So it's like anything that you're interested in that much, it's almost like you assume everybody must know what you're talking about, and they just don't. So I've been using the podcast a lot in my mind to be like, when I have to do a solo one, I just kind of talk about that stuff, because I'm like, well, I've definitely talked to people about it. I've definitely written about it, but like more people could hear this. Maybe more people would be helped by this in this medium, So, and just like having written an article or whatever 4 years ago, I don't assume everybody read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like barely anybody reads anything. So, so it's like, okay, here's another way. Because the reason I do it is because it can really help humanity, like on a massive scale. So that's why I love talking to you, because you have such a neat story. And I don't assume that anybody that listens to this has any idea of any of that, even though to me it's like old hat. So whatever you are comfortable.
I'm pretty huge, man. Probably
you are. You do have a huge.
No, but it's true what you say, and I think it is also a fragmentation of media where, like, you can, I'll just go with what I was going to say. I had an impulse to check it because it may seem arrogant, but so the only time the New York Times reviewed me, I was like, oh, this is going to change my life. Like, I got a positive review for my solo show in the New York Times. And it was this was in 2014. So this was a while ago.
Yeah.
And it was a wake up moment where I was like, all right, well, I was doing a run of my show, The Mushroom Cure, in New York. And I had maybe 2 or 3 shows left. And I was like, well, they're definitely going to sell out. And it had almost no impact. Whereas I feel like 10 years earlier, it would have, but I think part of it is this fragmentation of media. You mentioned you wrote an article, you can't assume everyone's read it. And I think part of it is there is such a diversity of media to reach people, which is a wonderful thing, but also means that these previously sort of monolithic gatekeeper media channels like the New York Times or network television simply don't have the weight they had anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who just they don't read the New York Times, who might, or they don't watch NBC News where they would have 10 or 20 years ago. And it's I think that's why. And also obviously you can do very different things in the podcast form than you can in an article or a live performance for that matter.
What do you think of this? So I just thought of this. So the reason the New York Times is the New York Times to you and I is because our parents or grandparents, someone close to us as we were growing up, whatever, that was all there was, right? So like the authority was Walter Cronkite and the New York Times. We were alive for that time. Well, like my kids don't have the same cultural references as me, so the New York Times is no more important to them than the Washington Post or CNN. Like they don't care. It's not a brand they identify with. And I was thinking about this for like, I grew up like Roman Catholic, basically. So my references that get burned into your brain of like cultural references, like Noah's Ark, pick for example. If you don't grow up in that religion, you don't really know that story anymore. It's not like everybody you know knows that story anymore because the culture fades away from, religion is sort of, dwindling or whatever, at least from what I can tell, like in my area.
To jump in is, and maybe this isn't germane to your point, but when you say that, I feel like, I don't know if I had a point. It seems like there's a small number of biblical stories that are just cultural touchstones. Like I'd say Adam and Eve, Noah's Ark. And again, I don't know if this is particularly relevant to the point you're making, but do kids growing up today not know Noah's Ark if they're raised secularly?
Yeah, I mean,
you
my
know
kids
better than I. I don't.
Yeah, my kids really have no idea. And
really?
Yeah,
that is a change.
Like even to the point of, and this is the part that really freaked me out, is growing up in any sort of, I think like in the Christian side, I don't. That's all I know. It seems like they really drill the stories. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Growing up with none of that, I never had those stories to drill. Right. So there's very little of it. So my kids are even like, would ask me stuff like, what is this Jesus I hear people talk about? You know what I mean? And you're just like, how would we rationally explain this? And I'm just like, he seemed like he was a pretty good guy.
You're right.
Enough to have a story that lasted about him for thousands of years. And he had a pretty interesting message, which is somewhat similar to messages you might hear from other world religions like Buddhism and others, so it's like, he's pretty big, pretty good guy. Don't know if he was real. Might've been like, I explain it very rationally, right? My point being that you are exactly correct that there's what is the touchstone of truth or the touchstone of what you can expect everybody is in on to be able to make an inroads like that. So the New York Times reviewed you. That would have been great 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's
it would have been career making. The same way late night. You went on Carson, your career was made. You could be making, a very healthy upper middle class income as a stand-up comic in the 80s from one television appearance. Yeah. And now it means almost nothing. It's a credit that might get you in the door at some clubs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the absolutely, I heard this stat. I think it's probably not accurate now, and maybe there's a better reference now, but this was like 4 or 5 years ago. The highest selling artist, I think, was Taylor Swift, right? And let's say I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but you'll understand what I'm saying. If she sold 1 million records, the next highest artist sold 50,000. It was like that big of a spread.
20-fold ink. Yeah.
So like
just dominating.
There aren't that many of those anymore in any space. And when they do rise to the top, you're just like, all right, well, that is now peak excellence to break through this noise and be a cultural, everybody knows. I don't know. It's definitely weird
maybe that's
times.
a good thing.
Maybe. I think I
Yeah, just in the sense that, yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, here's the flip side of it: is there's a lot of comics who are. In fact, I'd say most of my favorite comics now are not late night comics. People
Right.
like Maria Bamford, like Eddie Pepitone,
yeah.
who, yeah, I mean, how did I might have just, I'm trying to remember how I actually, I might have met them through comedy, but if I weren't a comic, I probably wouldn't have found them if this were pre-internet. So, you know, there's, yeah. And what you and I are doing right now, I mean, this is not something that we could probably sell to network TV 20 years ago as a distribution platform or NPR, but we're going to put this out and this is going to find whoever it finds.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and that's the thing is find your people, because there's so many people.
There's a lot of fucking people.
That's all you need is your people, like, and to sustain as an artist, right? I think that's really fascinating, and I think it's a good thing. I have to be optimistic about it, but it is weird because you get sucked into this idea that everybody already knows what you're talking about or has heard about it before. And it's hard to imagine not knowing about this stuff. So, like, when I think about the maps thing, you know, it's incredible. I came to it when I came to it many years ago to be involved, but it's just like, man, look at, like, Rick in '86 was on this, and, you know, probably it's like, man, what a long-term vision that is so inspiring. Yeah. So inspiring. So I wanted to definitely let you touch on the mushroom cure, all that run. I want to hear about that, and you know, just, I guess, basically assume nobody knows who you are and what you're talking about.
Which is a safe assumption.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a very clear demonstration of this with, I can't remember, did I share, did you see the Trip Report?
No.
Oh, I'm remiss. I should have shared this with you. I'll share it with you afterwards. But this actually reinforces my point. Even you, who we're connected via multiple points on social media, you didn't see this thing. And knowing you, it's not because it popped up in your finger like, fuck this shit. It was because it just you didn't see it, which is, so I spent most of the pandemic, for better or for worse, and the jury in my brain is still out on which it is, working on a comedic psychedelic news show called The Trip Report, which is sort of like a Last Week Tonight vibe, but for psychedelic news. Okay. And the reason I mention this in the context of knowing what I'm doing is I put in. So initially, I had it was actually Hamilton Morris was my co-anchor. Okay. I had a really talented director named Kirk Bettinen. We had a little team involved. Yeah. And Hamilton was in New York. I was in the Bay Area at this time. Mm-hmm. This was like almost exactly a year ago. Yeah, it was actually. It was like pretty much exactly a year ago. So we were doing stuff remote, but it was we shot a pilot. And there were issues with the pilot. I won't get into the details, but the pilot did not turn out well. The single biggest issue, frankly, is I'd never done anything like this before, and there were just things I didn't foresee. And so it was like, all right, we got to reshoot this. Then Hamilton restarted with Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia. It had been on hiatus. Yeah. So he's like, don't have time for this. Then Kirk, the director, got pulled into another project. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it alone. Yeah. I'd never edited video. I'd never filmed it. So I did this entire thing. Again, you can see it alone. And it took me probably 1,500 hours. It was my full-time job for like 9 months. I put an insane amount of time. And I released it almost exactly a month ago to the day. And it has gotten, I don't want to say heartbreaking. Is that the adjective I want to use? Not anymore, but initially it felt heartbreaking. The lack of attention it got for this thing. I'd really put my whole heart and soul into it. And I merely mention that in this context because it was kind of, I think there's reasons it didn't get a ton of attention. It's about 10 minutes long. It's hard to get people to engage for that long. It's, you know, and it's not like it got no attention, but like Michael Pollan tweeted it out. And I was like, kind of, we were talking about the New York Times, like, all right, now it'll get a ton of views. Yeah. And it got maybe a couple of hundred views over the next few days. Like it didn't take off, but it was instructive for me where it was like, no matter how good something is, and I'm not saying this is brilliant, but it's something that I think is good. I worked hard on it. I gave it, it's the best I could do alone.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of interest clearly in psychedelics, but there's still just so much out there. And to assume that any one thing is going to find an audience is fallacy. I think what it really is you just keep putting your voice out there in various forms, in various ways. And, you kind of shrug your shoulders. All right, maybe this thing will hit. Maybe this won't hit. So and that's all to say that, yes, I even more so than I would have a month ago, I assume no one knows anything about me. And that's fine because, hey, I'm still figuring out who I am too and what I'm saying. So it's
well, there's a timeless quality to it now that's different too. Like, so you put it out, and for you had this whole thing of like the launch date, and that's when everybody needs to know. Well, whenever somebody's hearing this, that's when they're going to see it. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, again, that long time horizon, right? Like, you're putting it out, it'll be there whenever they get to it. I think about podcast episodes like that too. It's like, I don't care if you've listened to them all in a row, or, maybe you listen to one and you're like, oh, he had this person. It's just like, I'll go back and hear that. It doesn't matter, because the putting out, not in your case, I'm saying the putting out of podcasts, for example, is fairly easy for what you get on the other end in I think the information and the conversation. Right. You put your heart and soul into this. It's there now for good forever to be seen when it hits people at the right time. And you know how important synchronicity is, of like, sometimes you got to come to it at the right time, right? I think we've gotten this idea that because your reach is so easy on social media and instantaneous, that equates to instant returns.
Right.
Like you said, Michael Pollan retweeted it. Cool. If I was watching Twitter that day, around the time that happened, I might have seen it, because the algorithm just decides what I see. So now think about that. I have to go back and be a big enough fan to find Michael Pollan and then say, and I don't know if anybody does this, maybe they do, just say, I'm going to read all his tweets from the last 2 months.
Right.
Maybe, but that's a real tiny group of the people in general in Twitter who are just like flicking through in line, right? So it's like, you can reach 20 million people, but maybe 10,000 of them give a shit, and maybe 100 clicked it. Right?
This reminds me of a joke. Do you know Phil Hanley, that comic?
No.
He's a New York comic. He's great. He has a joke. It's where he talks about like, I'm single. When you're single, people say you can have sex with whoever you want, but it's actually whoever wants to have sex with you. Turns out it's a very different number. So it's like, there's 4 billion people on Facebook, but the subset of people who are going to see and like what you do is a very, very different number. Yeah. But I agree with everything you said. And initially there was a sense of like, oh my God, I put so much time into this and what a waste. But then I have been feeling like, well, first of all, I'm happy with it, which is a big thing for me to put out something that, I'm perfectionist. I have OCD. I tend to, people always say they're their own worst critic. And I used to have a joke about that. I won't do the joke, but it can be something kind of self-aggrandizing about saying that. So I won't say I'm my own worst critic, but I will say the biggest obstacle, I think the single biggest thing that has held me back professionally and creatively has been being too stingy with putting stuff out there because it's not good enough. So to put something out there that I feel like, this is good. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I'm happy with it, is in and of itself a major victory for me in my own sort of artistic journey. Yeah. And like you said, it's out there. It's out there, and people will find it or not find it. And it was fun. It was fun for a while, and then it became not fun because I was doing this entirely alone. Yeah. The writing, which was the fun part. Then I've never edited before. I had to learn Premiere Pro. That was kind of fun. I was surprised. Yeah. But then there came a point in this. So without giving away too much, it is a news show, and most of it is me sitting at a desk delivering the news. But there's also, with pictures in a picture over my shoulder. Sure. But then there's also some sketches in it, in which I play multiple characters appearing on screen simultaneously. And it's not incredibly technically tricky, but it was challenging for me. And I went down the, I would say, OCD rabbit hole at
Yeah.
a certain point of where there's no one I'm accountable for this.
Yeah.
There's no one saying, hey, I need to see that cut by 8 a.m. Monday.
Yeah.
There's no other pressures on my time. I'm not doing shows. I was living with my parents at this point. I'm thankfully not under particular I wasn't working. There was no terrible financial pressure because I wasn't paying rent and I was getting unemployment. And so, yeah, that take was pretty good, but can I do better? Let's find out. Let's do another take. And I did over 100 takes of some of the segments and really kind of got got unhealthy, where it was like, okay, well, I like that take, but you know what? I made this weird gesture with my left hand about 33 and a half seconds in. That kind of distracts a little bit. So let me reshoot that again. Oh, good. I got the gesture right, but wait, what is that? Now my hair is kind of in my eye and a distracting. So at a certain point, it became very not fun. And then it was just like, you just got to get this thing out, man.
Yeah.
You put so much time. And so I did get it out. And
I can't wait to watch it. Like I can't wait. I'm serious.
It touches on some, I mean, you're pretty much the target market. And that's the other part of it, is realizing that it is, I was emailing with David Bronner about it.
Yeah,
who is obviously a huge supporter of maps. And so I asked, I'd sent it to him. He liked it. And I asked him, I was like, hey, is this something that, Bronner's would want to, promote on social media? Because I have been grateful that a lot of psychedelic organizations have put it out. Yeah. Most of the traction, I should say that almost all the traction, like my own Instagram, maybe it got 800 views or something, but like Chacruna, Mushroom Gorilla, SF Psychedelic Society, Mapping the Mind, a lot of these platforms that did get a lot more traction.
Yeah.
And so I asked David, and he had a great line. He was like, it's just a little too insider baseball for us. Like, we're kind of a little bit more mainstream with the messages. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. That makes perfect sense. And that kind of explains why you kind of have to know the space to fully appreciate it. Yeah. So, and I'm fine with that because it touches on the ultimate issues it touches on. I guess I'll give this a little bit away. I am talking about developments in the space, but really what it comes down to is this question: can you create novel drugs that can deliver the benefits of psychedelics without the actual psychedelic experience? Because we're seeing this with companies like MindMed trying to develop something called 18MC, which is they're hoping will be anti-addictive. Basically, it's based on Iboga molecularly. Right. So they're hoping it'll deliver the benefits of Iboga, which has there hasn't been a ton of research, but anecdotally and a little bit of research seems to be very effective with opiate addiction and other forms of addiction. Right. They're hoping it'll mimic those benefits, but you won't actually trip. And DARPA, the U.S. military, they have a $27 million project now to try to create drugs based on psilocybin without actually the psychedelic experience. So this is, to me, is a very rich question. Can we separate the benefits from psychedelics from the psychedelic experience? Is the psychedelic experience itself kind of just a big side effect, basically, or is it integral to the benefits? And that, to me, then segues into these bigger questions of what is the psychedelic experience and why does the psychedelic experience exist? And so I don't want to give too much away, but it was... Oh, dude,
I can't wait to hear it and watch it.
It was fun just digging into these questions. And in a way, it's a news show, but it does, I think, it's a little bit of a manifesto. And someone called it that. I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with that because I do have strongly held views. And I suspect that they probably align with yours, but I don't want to make any assumptions.
And to here's my favorite part is when I watch it, I will know that probably most of the takes are like the 100th and the one that you chose, and very carefully. And so,
very carefully.
I don't know if you've read or know. I'm sure you know. Well, I don't know if you know Jordan Peterson, right? He's written 12 Rules for Life. His book before that, Maps of Meaning. He has spoken about this, and who knows if it's true, but I don't have any reason to believe he's wrong or lying. That he would spend hours per sentence on that book, and it took him like 15 years to write it. So
really?
He would
that
write
sounds like OCD to me. Yeah.
He would write the paragraphs of the day, right? Do his writing, right? And then part of his exercise then was to take each sentence on its own page, basically, and work on it, which is bananas. But when you read it, it's pretty, I mean, it's like poetic. It's really Maps of Meaning is like, so,
I've not read him. I'm familiar with who he is, but now, yeah, I'm curious. So do you feel, obviously you can't know for sure, but do you feel like that paid off for him? Do you feel like because like, would it have been better for him to produce 3 books in 15 years that didn't rise to that level of aesthetic, perfection in the language?
It's almost like it made me think, and I don't think he said this. This is what I took out of it, is like it made it seem like an artist with marble or whatever, like, or clay, and spending the time from the lump to the perfect, or from the square stone to the perfect statue.
Yeah.
And in his mind, for him, being your own worst critic, like you said, for him was to just get every sentence as perfect as he could possibly make it. And, I think there's a beauty in that. And for a first book, that's commitment. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Well, especially because the self-doubt, I mean, I see this I saw this. So the Trip Report is really the first thing I've done that's not live performance, other than I've acted in some movies that were other people's movies. And that was easy because I just had to know what my lines were. I showed up, I shot it, and then I don't have to, and then they say, great take, we got what we need. So the pressure is off me. But this is the first time where I've done something where it's really on my own, going deep. And I saw this, so many of my favorite authors talk about just how horrific it is to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I got an inkling of that, where it's the longer the time went on, and granted, this was a 10-minute webisode, this wasn't a novel, but the longer it went on, the heavier the burden of self-doubt became, where it's like, is it even worth this time? Am I even making it better?
Right.
Right. And so I can imagine, if you're working on a book for 15 years, I got to imagine he went through some heavy, deep shit psychologically.
Yeah. He's interesting. I don't want to go off on a tangent on Jordan Peterson. I think he has been attacked for, people that don't like finish reading the articles and things like that. And I don't know. I think he's very fascinating. And I think he says a lot of things that are like, never thought of it that way. Or just, I don't know. I don't want to, whatever. He's very.
That's a huge thing, though. I never thought, if someone makes you think about something in a new way. I mean, and that to me is actually the ultimate purpose of art as well.
Yeah,
is to. I mean, ultimate is maybe arrogant. There's many purposes, but to me that at this moment that feels like the highest, or certainly one of the highest purposes, is someone just shifting your perspective.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of comedy too. Is the punchline? It's like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. This is a different, off-kilter way of looking at something, but yet has truth in it, has some sort of deep truth.
Yeah. I mean, I know that for my sake, like, and I think this is interesting, is that you, going back sort of the synchronicity part, is you reached out to me randomly when I was getting hit up constantly for bookings, right? Like, hey, I'm in from New York, I need a spot, right?
Yeah.
So I put you on the show, and you were just literally brilliant at a bar show. I was like, holy shit. Like, because your writing is so good, right? Just so good and so pure. And now I know, knowing you better, how much it took you to get to that, whatever line, whatever jokes you were working on. I know what they went through to get there, which makes me appreciate it even more. And we didn't even talk about psychedelics the first time we met.
Oh, that's
right.
I love our origin story. Go on.
It
is very synchronous.
And I don't remember how we figured it out, but it was just like you were like, holy shit, dude. I didn't know you were involved with maps, and look at this.
Yeah. This is,
and
I know. So and it was kind of unusual. Well, I will say this about my stand-up, is I've never been someone who labors over jokes. I mean by that is, I'm not, kind of the opposite. So many comics, they'll talk about how, tweaking like Seinfeld is sort of the classic example, tweaking a word here, cutting out one syllable here. Like a lot of
Yeah.
comics will do what you just said, Jordan Peterson will do. You write the joke out on paper. You
Yeah.
look at it syllable by syllable. And I've tried to do that at various points in my career, and it's never worked for me. For me, a joke
Yeah.
comes to me, and I do it on stage, and it either works or it doesn't work. I seem to lack this part of my brain with stand-up that, like, I'm not good at seeing. I sometimes find new possibilities in the moment on stage.
Yeah.
But I've never been able to really write stand-up in a way a lot of comics do. So you're not wrong in that what you saw was the product of a lot of work, but it wasn't so much the work of like refining and
Interesting.
and polishing. It's more the work of trying a lot of stuff on stage and like, well, that didn't work. All right, let me try this. And so, but the way we met, it was cool. So we did this show, and yeah, I really appreciated what you were doing on stage too. And there was, a quality that intellectual. And so we started talking afterwards, and we hung out for a while at that club, and it was interesting because I usually have at least one joke about psychedelics, but I didn't do anything about psychedelics. You didn't do anything about psychedelics.
Yeah.
We hung out for maybe an hour, I think mostly one-on-one after the show.
Yeah.
Psychedelics didn't come up at all. And then the next day, I got a notification. Matt Neal has followed you on Twitter, and I followed you back, and I saw in your bio that you were on the board of MAPS, and I was about to do the first. So this was actually, I don't think we know each other for as long. It hasn't been a decade. I think I'm almost sure this was 2016 because I was about to do the first big run, like with a big producer, or not big, but like sizable run of the Mushroom Cure in New York. And I was thinking like, how am I going to get, I have, I don't remember, 30 shows to sell in this theater. How am I going to get audience? Well, I should try to partner with MAPS, but I don't know anyone at MAPS. Then here you are. And I reached out, and you were immediately in the same vein as you put me up on this show in your show, even though you didn't know me at all. You were immediately like, oh yeah, let me help you. And you hooked me up with Brad there, who then hooked me up with Duncan Trussell and Aubrey Marcus and Shane Moss. And and it was, and MAPS wound up sponsoring that run actually, and has continued to support the Mushroom Cure.
And then I think the last time I saw you was at Psychedelic Science. When we did the comedy show with Duncan and Shane. And dude, I think back to that. I still think about it. Both, remember Adrian Earhart?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we, like, I feel like my set was terrible. I was so nervous. And like, that was the biggest audience I'd ever performed in front of. Like, it was like 500 people. And I was just so nervous. And she feels like she tanked and quit stand up for like a few months after that. It was so like,
oh really? I didn't know this story.
I didn't worry about my set that much, but
I don't remember. I don't even know if I was in the room because I'm also, I'm always, I'm not good with time management. And so often it's like right before a set, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? It's funny because part of the OCD is you want to be very prepared and have everything figured out. But I think a reaction to that often, it's like, well, people assume when they hear someone has OCD, you're very organized and neat. And I'm pretty, I don't live in a pigsty, but I don't know if you can see the background here. It's pretty messy and chaotic. And I often think that's sort of a reaction to OCD where it's like, well, I can't do it perfectly, so I'm just going to say, fuck it and not do it at all. So anyway, that's all to say that with often, especially if it's like, not a standard club set, but I'm doing a psychedelic event, which, I don't get to do as often as I want because there's so many more of them now. But certainly in 2017, there were fairly few and far between. So I was not in the ballroom. I was outside pacing back and forth, trying to drill what I wanted to say into my head. I don't remember seeing anyone other than Duncan because he went last. And
God, that was so neat. You know what was really fun was before the show, Duncan and I kind of went around the room and we're like, we got to change the way this is set up for comedy because it was.
Oh, I think I was there too with that, with the lighting and stuff.
Yeah, remember?
Yeah, I remember.
We're like,
that
we need to move the tables closer together. We need to get it closer to the stage. The lighting's and I'm so glad we did that, but it was still just like, man, now any space works for comedy. Like,
wait, were you the MC? You were the MC, right?
Yeah, I was the MC, and I did like 5 minutes. Yeah. was
Yeah,
so
I remember.
nervous.
I don't think I saw your opening bit. I just remember you bringing, or maybe I didn't. I frankly don't remember it, but I do remember it was, the room. I mean, it was a big ballroom. It was not set up for comedy, but it was also, well, those sort of shows I love because it is insider baseball. You know, like my favorite thing to do at these shows is roast Rick Doblin because he's such a good sport about this stuff. And, you know, I have, by this point, I've done so many psychedelic events that I have like 7 minutes just on Rick Doblin. The premise is basically being he smokes a lot of weed, and maps and you know, does MDMA all the time, which he doesn't. But
that's so funny.
But yeah, that was it was fun, but it was a pretty seminal event because it was, you know, that was the first real big like psychedelic comedy thing that I was certainly involved in.
Yeah, it was so neat, and we're gearing up for the next one.
I was about to say, are we doing comedy at 2023?
Yeah,
23.
Yeah, 23. Yeah, I already reached out to Duncan and Shane. You know, awesome. I think, and I'm sure Adrian. Oh my God, you should see Adrian now. Like, she took time off, and then, you know, she came back, and she is just slays now. She's so good, which is
great,
which is awesome. So it's we definitely have to do that again. That was really fun, and time flies, man. It's crazy. So tell me about your next adventure. Your mushroom tour is coming, or mushroom cure is coming back. Yeah,
I don't know. I actually, so I had, yes. I had, there was a producer who, a theater producer who wanted to be involved, and we were going to do, so the goal for a while has been to get this thing on a major distribution platform, Netflix or something, like HBO. So it's a solo show. It's just me on stage for about 90 minutes. And I started doing it in 2011, which was, a very different time. And the premise is essentially, for those who aren't familiar, I had extremely debilitating obsessive compulsive disorder. I had been on high dose SSRIs and other psychiatric medications for 15 years. Nothing was working. I'd seen all sorts of specialists. The OCD was getting worse and worse. And then I read at that point, the only study of any psychedelic for OCD, a very small study out of the University of Arizona, published in 2006. And I had no experience with psychedelics at this point when I read this, but I was desperate and I felt like I had nothing to lose. And so after reading this study, I decided to try to cure myself with psychedelics. And when I started doing the show in 2011, and I would tell people the premise of the show, many people, they couldn't wrap their head around it. They were like, wait, you would use psychedelics to treat mental illness, but psychedelics cause mental illness. Like, you should be doing the opposite. And it's such a sea change, because now when I tell people about the show, they're like, oh yeah, of course. I took my microdose 2 hours ago. It's just, it's a dramatic change. But that's all to say, I've been doing the show for a long time, and I don't particularly want to continue doing it because I feel like, of course, it's still my story, but I'm in a very different place in my life right now. And so, but at the same time, I feel like it is a show and a story that has a certain power and can touch people and reach people. So I want it to be out there. So the ambition for a while, for years, has been, let's film it and get it on a distribution platform. And so I actually had a call with Rick. I don't think I'm disclosing anything confidential here. In October 2019, I know because it was right before the Horizon Psychedelic Conference, where I said, hey, I want to raise money for the mushroom cure. Obviously, MAPS has this big donor base. It's not the same, I'm not doing science, but do you think some of your donors might be interested in, financially supporting a run? Oh, yes, I left out a piece. So I talked to the producer, the theater producer, who's been involved with like a bunch of solo shows that have gone to Netflix or HBO, Colin Quinn, Mike Birbiglia, those sort of people. Yeah. And he said, so I said, how do I get something on Netflix or HBO? And he said, the only way I know to do it is if you have a hit run in New York at basically one of these 3 or 4 theaters. Right. like, I can promise you we can get Netflix and HBO to come to the show. Will they buy it? I can't promise, but that's how we get them to come to the show.
Right.
And I said, okay, great. How do we have a hit run at a theater of this size? And he says, you need money to market. And then I was thinking, how do I get money? Let's hit up the psychedelic community. So Rick said, yeah, I'm happy. Get me a proposal, and we can get it out to people and see what happens. And I did not follow up I was this is where the perfectionism can really limit me. I started working on the proposal, but I was like, it's not quite, I can tweak it. I can make it better. I can make it more compelling.
Yeah.
And I was still working on what was essentially going to be a 2-page proposal when the pandemic hit.
Okay.
So this is all to say, I've actually been thinking about this. I'm like, I guess I should pick up again where I left off and reach out to Rick and see if this is still something that we could do. That is my goal for the Mushroom Cure, is to do it and then let it go. Let it go. Because it's a demanding show for me to do. It's a very, very intense. Like, I really, the psychedelic angle is sort of the hook of the show. And it is, that's the part that I think has a lot of intrigue. But a lot of the intensity and power of the show come from a very raw, honest depiction of OCD. Like, I would wager that most people who see the show have never seen another person not just talk about mental illness openly, but really show it. I really go there.
Yeah.
And, maybe if I was a better actor, I could go there in a way that was convincing without really actually kind of going to a fairly somewhat dark place, but I can't. So it's almost like method acting. It's almost like I have to turn back the clock of my own recovery in some way. Or, it's like by really portraying it that way. Yeah. It can be intense and somewhat unpleasant for me.
Yeah.
Unpleasant isn't quite the right word, but it's like, it's just, let me put it this way. I have wondered at times, and audience members have asked me this after the show, like, is this in some way maybe unhealthy for you?
Yeah.
It's kind of like reenacting, something. So that's all to say, I value doing the show. Mm-hmm. I value the intensity of the experience. I value connecting with the audience. I value what an audience can get from it. But my ideal vision would be I do, 1 or 2 more runs of the show, film it, put it out into the world, and that's it. So,
and I don't know if you've ever explored this. I feel like I've seen you explore this, but maybe I'm wrong. Have you ever had anyone else perform it?
Yeah, so we did.
Yeah.
I was doing the show so I had a run going in New York, a year-long run at Theater 80, which unfortunately is not surviving the pandemic. I mean, this is the other side of all these calculations. Is it's unclear right now which theaters are going to be standing still in New York.
Right.
But so I had a run. It had started off really, really slow, and thanks to help from Maps and other folks and just consistently doing the show week after week, we'd built up a really good audience. But I was contracted to go out to Berkeley and do the show there. And so we got someone else to play me in New York. And it was cool. There were a few dates where the show was playing both coasts simultaneously.
Wow.
So that is something I like, the idea of letting other people, putting the script out there as well, and letting other people, put their own spin on it. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm thinking more of like in the way that you monitor your words and your, and like you did for your show that you made. I wonder if it's almost like you have to vet and then allow more venues to do it in more areas than just New York and LA. You know what I mean? But the only way somebody can do that is if they've been approved by you, right? So almost like, because there's, more people need to see it. It is amazing. I'll put I guess there's no way anybody can see it now.
There's not. I do have some kind of home video recordings of it. Nothing I'd want to put out. Yeah.
But
I do think I want to hear what you have to say, but I just to this point, I do think there will be, I think I will be performing it in the near future in either New York, LA, or San Francisco.
Yeah.
That's awesome. This isn't me being coy. Like, I got some stuff lined up, but I can't talk about it. It's more like, I'm not done with the show yet. And
Well, the reason I say, and I'm glad that's how I thought for a minute here, I thought I like just invented that in my mind, but now I remember like you showed the wardrobe and all that stuff. I remember now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, so it'd be really cool, and it'd be really cool if it could be more widespread. And what I was going to say was, I don't think there's a better moment in time for something along those lines, given we're coming out of a pandemic and people who have been shut in for a year. I think live events are going to be something to behold for the next couple of years as we come out of this. A live event about, you're going to laugh, and you're also probably going to see a path to healing, and a path to, a better life in a lot of ways. That it should be transformational, and just want more people to check it out. So like, it's awesome that you have that model appropriate, but I think to your point, why it's so good at engaging is because you bring so much to it. So to be able to transfer that to another actor, they're going to have to pass a pretty high bar,
Yeah. And I like the idea of letting other people run with it because, well, like the actor who portrayed it. So I have a director, Jonathan Libman, really, I mean, all credit to the show. A good chunk of it has to go to him as well. And we auditioned people in New York, and it was like over 1,000 people submitted to audition, which doesn't speak to anything like, oh, we want to do Adam Strauss's play. I think it's kind of a heartbreaking commentary on just supply demand of acting opportunities in a major city like New York.
Yeah.
And we opened it up. It was open to, all genders. It wasn't, ultimately the person who we did select was a dude. But we had some sense like, do we need someone who has experienced OCD? And this guy, to my knowledge, name is Michael Tyler, really just this powerful actor, did not experience OCD. And that was kind of eye-opening because what I like about the show, one thing I like about it is there is something universal. And I think that's the power of emotion generally. And you can even see this in stand-up is we all have different experiences, different circumstances, but there's a pretty limited range of human emotion. There's infinite depth and, but in terms of like, there's loss, there's fear, there's grief, there's joy, there's desire, so it was instructive for me to realize that, if someone really allows themselves to feel the depth of an emotion, if I allow myself to on stage, I can connect to audience members who have no idea what OCD is like, but they can feel that raw emotion and they can relate to it because they're human. They felt every one of those emotions.
Yeah.
That universal aspect, I think, is something that I appreciate, not just about the mushroom cure, but about, I think, anything where people really put their heart into something and get that, including stand-up. But stand-up it's hard. I wasn't sure if I was going to come back to stand up post pandemic.
Yeah.
Cause I've had ambivalence about it for years. I'm getting a little far afield, but it's a beautiful form. I have a great deal of respect for it, but it is a very limited form in that you have to get laughs, and that limits what you can do. And the limitation, of course, is part of the beauty, like a haiku, you have these very strict, delineations of the form. And it's like, how free can you be within these limits?
Yeah.
But those limits, the longer I do stand up, the more I find myself feeling like, I don't know if I want to play this game anymore.
Interesting. I have so much love and respect for the art form. It's very difficult. I think it's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's a key to being able to process thinking more clearly and be a better writer. I think there's a spectrum of people who do stand up for a spectrum of different reasons, which vary from the pure art of just being able to do it as a skill, or to the people who must have the incoming attention and or adoration or whatever, and a billion miles in between all of those things, right?
Yeah.
And for me, my where I am on that spectrum is I like the art and the writing and seeing if I can figure out the puzzle of it. that means a lot more to me. And the only way you know that is by the audience reaction. So therefore it makes it seem like, oh, you need the audience reaction.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a high that comes off of it when it happens. So I don't discount that either. But to me, it's almost like in the moment, I'm like, okay, I figured that one out. I got that.
Yeah.
That joke worked. Okay.
Like that's just,
yeah.
I think you're unusual. I think, well, I've thought this even when I first met you, that you seem like an unusually healthy, balanced person for a stand-up.
Yeah.
And also just, yeah, I don't know. I had just a very positive reaction. And listen, I love twisted, damaged people too. And I also don't want to make it seem like, you're free of neuroses and it's this, either or thing. But I think maybe I'm just projecting. One of the reasons I've had ambivalence about stand-up is because I realize how much that validation means to me and how, of course, it's like any other drug. It's and psychedelics are kind of maybe not the same as this, but any sort of drug of addiction, which could be food, which could be cocaine, which could be internet porn, which could be checking Instagram, which it's never enough. It's that AA slogan. One is too many, 1,000 is never enough.
Yeah.
It's like you can't, you're trying to scratch the insatiable. So I think, I know for me, I got into stand-up on the heels of a very painful breakup. And I think a lot of what I was looking for was love and validation without the vulnerability that comes from a deep interpersonal relationship. I wasn't conscious of this, but it was, because non-comics always say, when you tell people you do stand-up, the most common reaction often is, oh, that's so brave. And I look at it as, yeah, there is a bravery, but it's scary for anyone, especially when you start. You're going to have some traumatic bombs. Yeah. And I think a lot of the difference, you need to have something propelling you over the fear of social humor. It's not like stand-ups don't feel that fear, but there's some deeper need that propels them past that.
Yeah.
And for you and for some people, it may be just the love of the joke, the problem solving, the puzzle. But maybe I'm just projecting. My assumption has been for many, if not most stand-ups, a huge part of it is give me the love. Give me the love that I'm not getting in some other part of my life. And maybe also part of it comes to you started doing it. You already married, and did you already have kids when you started doing it?
Yeah, yeah.
So you had a place in the world that I'd say is more and professionally as well than most comics. You had a pretty complete life. When I started doing it, I did not have. It felt like there were big holes in my life that I was hoping this would, again, maybe not consciously, but fill with love and validation and purpose and meaning.
I just always, growing up as a kid, just loved it. It just always appealed to me. So even the inkling that I could even scratch the surface of doing it at any level just never really occurred to me until I started to really study it and then do it. And it's almost like I have to pinch myself if I have a good set, just like, especially when so I would record my sets all the time and I'd listen back. And if you can separate yourself out from yourself and it worked and the joke worked, you're like, this sounds like what I used to listen to. This is what holy shit, I can do that thing sometimes for a brief instant, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, something that just, I just so admire it. And at the same time, like I dive deep into other people's material and the writing, and I love like the tweak of a joke, especially if you're with a comic for a couple shows and you kind of know their material and you're like, hey, you changed that word. And they're like, yeah, I did. And you're like, oh, it worked so much better that way. Or, oh my God, there's nothing better than coming up with a tag and then watching that tag work.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh man, it's just so neat. Like, because it wouldn't have existed if you weren't listening to that joke. It just flew into your head and you're like, what would work there? And sometimes you get that tip and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm never going to say that. But other times you're like, holy, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it, And it's that I'm going to try it. And then I can't wait till my next set to try it. that I think is so cool. Like people have given me tags like, what if you change this little thing here? And I'm like, ooh, yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
And you're like, when's my next set? I got to get up and see if that worked, you know? So that's the like the punch of it for me, is figuring that out.
And that is for me. I mean, similar to you, I loved stand-up growing up, and you and I are similar ages. And I was just thinking about this. I was actually talking to someone about this. Stand-up it was rare that you were exposed to stand-up growing up in the 80s. Like there wasn't Comedy Central. What I remember watching stand-up was there was like these big, like maybe it was Farm Aid. There were things like these big sort of
comic relief
that would be on like HBO, and you'd see stand-up, because I wasn't watching, late night TV, and there wasn't internet. It wasn't like I could watch a comic set the next day.
Yeah.
So what I remember from a very early age is the several times a year I would see stand-up were always very special. There was a magic about it that nothing else, I wasn't in love with cinema. I wasn't in love with TV. It was this special thing, but it was never in my universe that this was something I could do.
Yeah.
It was, it just didn't occur to me that this was something, even though in hindsight, there's so many things that make it seem obvious. But meaning something that would have been obvious for me to try.
Yeah.
I mean, I was living in New York for a decade before I went to a live stand-up show, because it's mostly tourists. And then when I did, I was like, this is the answer. This is the thing I've been looking for.
Yeah.
But there is still that pure love of just the joy when you figure something out. And it's
the best. It's the best.
It is magical. But I also know for me, I mean, it sounds like for you, like the audience, of course, you love that dopamine rush when you get a reaction, but a big part of it is this is just the way that you can validate or verify that you've cracked the code, is the audience reaction. Where for me, it does feel like there's a pretty deep visceral need for that reaction. Though the longer I do it, the more I'm also, it's less vital to me, but it's still pretty vital. And I don't know where I'm going with stand up exactly. But, I got back to New York a week ago. I had some shows lined up. I've only done 2. I'm doing a 3rd tonight, and they've just been fun. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll keep doing it for now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I've not tried in New York. I've been to New York a few times, since I've been doing stand up, and it's one of those things where, pre-pandemic, obviously, for the last like 4 years or so, like you can't get in to any of those spots. You know what I mean? Like this Comedy Cellar.
You broke up for a second. You said the fear is what?
No, the last few times I've been in New York, I've performed in other cities a lot when I travel. Or travel for it, but I never have done New York. And it's interesting because the only parallel I can draw is from being a musician. When my band played in New York at CBGB's, it was a big deal. And, I have reverence for those kind of rooms. So it's just like, man, if I would love to earn the right to stand on those stages. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's kind of the long game of it is I would like to do that at some point, which means I got to keep going. Right? Like, I didn't earn the Comedy Store.
It's earning, but it's also like
shows.
how I got the spot on your show where, I didn't earn that. You just some comic you didn't know reached out to you, and I probably sent you a tape, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll put this guy up. So this is all to say, I feel like we've corresponded on this with one of your visits, but I mean, I can certainly get you stage time in New York.
If God, I wasn't even, I was saying like,
no, I know you weren't saying that, but I feel like, well, sorry, go on. Maybe I didn't think you were fishing for stage time, but I was saying like, I feel like you have earned it. You've been doing it for a while. You're funny. New York is not. I mean, I'd say the average level of comedy in New York is higher than anywhere else I've been, including LA. Yeah. But if I were to do there's a lot of comics here who I'm like, I'm not close to their level, but I still get up and do my thing. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just. I think it's just a different thing
it's this other thing versus Los Angeles. It's just a different little niche. And I always appreciate folks that can play in both leagues, basically. You know what I mean? And you know, I don't know where I was going with that either. I'm psyched you're in New York. It's like, I'm psyched you're in New York and you're going to have fun. Like, you know,
I don't know for how long. It's you know, because the biggest thing that's kept me in New York has been stand up. And I was, you know, for years I've done like, I don't know, an average of probably a dozen sets a week, sometimes 15 sets a week. You know, on a Saturday night, I could do 5 or 6 sets jumping from club to club.
Yeah.
And I think I'm done with that. I think I'm done with just the total hustle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still enjoying it. But yeah, if I'm not I mean, New York is the best city in the world for stand-up because you can do a huge number of sets and the level is really, really high here.
Yeah.
Like the average comic in New York, I would say is, you know, at a different level than the average comic in LA, though the best comics in LA are obviously world class.
Right.
But it's LA, you also get a lot of people who are like, they're actors, but they're going to dabble in stand-up.
Yeah.
Whereas New York, if you're doing stand-up in New York, you're probably here to do stand-up. But it is...
I have a little bit of like guilt in a way of being like, you know, if that idea that if you're not grinding out there every day, doing 3 and 4 sets a day, you know, but it's like, well, this is the only way I can do it. It is the way I'm doing it. The timing and so it'll be what it's going to be. So I just kind of accept it and, you know, but to your point, like you were kind of starting with like that you're not sure where you're going to be with it. And it's just because it's evolved and it's different. Right. But I don't think I'll ever not do it is my point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could see myself, I mean, during the pandemic, I missed it, but it wasn't for a fairly long time, I'd been sort of questioning like, is it worth the time I'm putting into it? And it's fun, but ultimately what is my goal here?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, cause for a long time, I do have a certain rigidity or lack of flexibility in my thinking in some ways. And one way that can manifest, which is sort of an OCD thing, is that I like very linear pathways. So I like knowing, and stand up, you know, ostensibly seems to offer that where it's like, well, you just keep doing it and you get better and better. Because that is one of the very seductive things about stand-up is, I mean, of course, we know comics who have been doing it for decades and are just doing the same 5 minutes. But if you're consistently pushing yourself, which to me just means trying new stuff on stage from a writing perspective, but also performance perspective, and you're paying attention, you know, you're being present, you're in the moment as best you can, or you're listening to it after the fact, you will get better.
Yeah.
And it's a limitless learning curve. It's not like, you know, it's not like if you're a runner, you hit a point where, okay, I can do a mile in 5 minutes and 21 seconds. I'm never going to get faster. Stand up. People who keep pushing themselves, you know, they just get better and better and better. And that is incredibly seductive, I think, for a lot of people, but particularly with the way I think it's like, all right, well, I don't have to worry about, you know, am I doing the right auditions? Am I, you know, posting enough on social media? Just get as good at this as you can and everything will take care of itself. And that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, like, get as good as you can, but you have to be worrying about the other things. And I really haven't. I've not focused on a lot of the other career stuff. So that's been part of my calculation is, maybe I'm better off stepping away and focusing on other things, or maybe I'm better off instead of doing 15 sets a week, do 4 sets a week and spend some more time on other things that could. Yeah. I don't quite know where I'm going with this, but that's all to say that I also think the idea of just the grind is hearkening back to what we said at the beginning of this conversation. Yeah, I think there was a linear path for a long time. Get as good as you can, get that late night spot on Carson or Letterman, you know, and then you're made. Whereas now, I mean, there's people who have been doing stand-up for 8 months who can draw 100 times the audience I can simply based on a 30-second TikTok video they posted.
Yeah. It's bananas.
But there's so many other channels. What'd you say?
It's bananas.
Yeah. So there's channels for finding, as you said earlier, find your people. Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. And but for me, it also comes down to what do I want to say? What do I want to express? I love humor, but there's a lot that I want to express that I feel like I kind of sometimes think of stand-up as like scuba diving. or sorry, snorkeling, where you got to surface every 30 seconds. You can go pretty deep, but you got to come up for air every 30 seconds. And I think of that in terms of laughs. Like, you can say whatever you want on stage, but you need to be getting those consistent laughs. And that limits how deep you can go.
Yeah.
For anyone, I don't care. I mean, to me, the person who got the deepest in the stand-up form is Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
He just, like, the first time I saw him in concert, whatever, 79, where he talks about his he died. I cried. Like, it was just the pathos. It was so moving.
Can you say that again? Because you clipped up.
Yeah, you still have to get the laughs, and that limit. Oops, sorry, what'd you say, Matt?
We had it glitched, and I couldn't hear what you said. You were talking about Richard Pryor.
Oh, I was just. I feel like I'm just kind of ranting here a bit, but yeah, to me, Pryor is the person who touched the deepest points of the human experience with his stand-up.
Yeah.
And like live in concert, the first time I saw it is I think it's 79. He talks about his pet monkeys dying and just the vulnerability and the pathos. It's so deep. And I cried when I first saw that. I was, 18, 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
But he's one in a million.
Yeah.
And I love Bill Burr, to throw a name out there, or Seinfeld. Yeah. But there is a depth in that they're expressing a frustration and a suffering, but there's not there's really very few. I mean, that's again why I love people like Maria Bamford and Eddie Pepitone. There's more vulnerability in it, more just raw vulnerability.
Yeah.
But even there, you still kind of need to come in with a laugh. You can't let the vulnerability hang out for too long, because that's not what the form is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily something I want to explore, things that maybe don't get a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it is fun. It is fun.
I love it. I can't wait for it to be not have a layer of fear on top of it, of gathering in rooms together, which
does it still, have you done stand up if I can even say post pandemic? I mean, I don't necessarily think we're totally out of the woods, but you say you haven't. Yeah.
No.
What is it like out there? I know you're not in LA proper. So are you going into the city at all, or?
No,
why would you?
There's never, I've gone almost nowhere. I think maybe like a month and a half ago, they opened the museum they opened some museum downtown at the California Science Center, and they were having like a Lego exhibit, and it was all socially distanced and limited, and so I took my son to that, and it was like the first time I'd driven downtown in a year, and it was so bizarre. And downtown, it's not looking good,
Really? Because New York, again, I got here a week ago, and it's funny talking to people who have been here continuously, where they're like, oh, it's so great, it's opening up. And for some reason, my brain, maybe not, I think it's fairly logical. I left New York. I left New York just before the pandemic hit. I was slated to be doing shows in SF, the Mushroom Cure, and a new show. And those were canceled. I found out a few days before I left, but I already had my plane ticket at housing. So I left New York when it was New York, as it always is, just, hopping normal New York energy. Yeah. And I came back, and it's hopping normal New York energy. Other than people wearing masks on the subway, it feels like places are packed, restaurants are packed, comedy clubs are pretty packed.
Yeah.
So it's, it feels...
Yeah, California locked us down a lot harder and made it seem scarier. And I think it definitely is, from a science standpoint, I don't understand why that's okay. Who was making things up and who benefited from making things up if it wasn't okay? I don't get it.
Yeah, there's all...
So it's probably irrational how fearful we all are here in California to do things, So I don't know. I'm excited for it to be gone. I'm excited for it to be a long memory, and I want to live long enough to find out what actually happened. Like how,
Yeah.
when the freedom of information, or we finally figure out, or whatever the hell, these last 4 years all encompass just mayhem that we didn't have to deal with. We had a really good run, like no pandemics, no super, like if you think about it, like Bill Clinton got impeached for lying about like sex with an intern. That was the
Oral
worst.
sex specifically, which I still maintain is a distinction. But anyway,
He did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I do not have someone.
But that was like the biggest thing they could come up with was a tabloid sex scandal. And you're just like, man, those were the good times, like in the grand scheme of things. So it's, who knows what's next, man? I don't know. But
yeah, we're in, it certainly feels destabilizing in a way that nothing else for me, my lifetime has. I mean, I was here for September 11th.
Yeah.
I saw the second tower fall. My girlfriend at the time was in the tower. She made it out okay.
Holy shit.
And shit felt crazy for like a month.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of, I mean, you still sometimes smell this burnt rubber smell wafting over Manhattan for a few months, but things were, you were going to your job. Your life was essentially unchanged. Really New York shut down for about a week, and then people were back to their jobs, and it did feel destabilizing and scary, but it was, whereas this is just, it's such a fundamental shift in the way we've lived our lives for over a year.
Yeah.
And it's, the long-term implications as you're psychologically, in terms of trust in political systems and medical expertise in established institutions. I think spiritual this is going to ramify outward in so many ways that we can't even conceive of now.
Yeah.
And
it's global.
This may not be it. Whether it's another COVID resurgence, it feels like suddenly we realize that the world is a lot more uncertain and chaotic than, maybe I shouldn't say than even if I intellectually accepted, like, yes, there's a lot that, we don't understand anything. The universe is fundamentally mysterious. It still felt like, but I can count on, going out to eat with friends, and I can count on, performing shows, and I can count on seeing friends and family, and suddenly everything is called into question.
Globally too, right? So to bring it full circle, this is, I think, I know we're getting close to time here, but to bring it full circle, like, this is a global event. Everybody knows about this that's alive right now. We'll never forget it, right? Here's the touchstone. The pandemic of this year is the touchstone. But like a 1-year-old kid, a 2-year-old kid, they have no idea. And when you brought up 9/11, I was like, oh yeah, like my kids really don't get it. Like they've seen it on TV, but they don't. It's like any other historical event. They just don't give a shit. And it's funny when you think about it that way. And I always think of this interesting thing. And I'm going to get there's an Indian tribe. I don't know which one. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes. But basically, that don't even acknowledge any person that they've never personally met. So from a generation standpoint. So most of them, maybe a great-grandfather, maybe a grandfather, but for the most part, nothing else exists. Like,
wow.
That idea of like, I think it was Ray Romano said 100 years, all new people. Like they literally, why are we worried about this? Why are we concerned about it? It's this weird thing. And religion, they don't have that touchstone if you don't give it to them. So it's like everybody could be fresh and new. And I feel like we should come out of this fresh and new. We're going to have this touchstone though, that we can always refer to. And it's like everybody gets their thing. We got this. We didn't get a world war. We got a pretty crazy White House. We got an insurrection and a pandemic within 7 months of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot to talk about, but are comics talking about it a lot in New York? Like, I feel like, I don't want to, I can't even think of a good joke about it. It's just like, well, what else can you talk about right now? Literally, like everybody.
Yeah, yeah. It's no, most comics are not again, having gone to just a handful of shows, but also gone to a bunch of my friends' shows at other clubs. People are yeah, it feels like it kind of feels like it didn't I mean, there is an awareness. It kind of feels like it didn't happen, but there's an awareness, sort of energetic. There's an intensity to the city right now that I find intoxicating, but also kind of exhausting, where it's just like people are out and people are, it's almost like a New Year's Eve type of vibe. I don't know how to, I hadn't thought about this before, but so I think what I'm trying to say is if you go to a comedy room, not many comics are talking about the pandemic, but that is sort of the energetic subtext for everything that is happening right now is this thing that we're collectively emerging from. And
it's like the canvas, the blank canvas. It's like the blank canvas we're all painting on now. Right. Yeah.
Like, that is the right. That's a great way to put it, is everything is somehow informed or motivated or at some way I can't articulate because it goes beyond the level of logic or cognition. There's a sense I have, and I feel like it's a shared sense that the moment we're living through right now is very much a moment born of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think as more places start to open up, I'm curious to see what it feels like out there. But yeah, we've been through some shit it's just hard to, like, again, 9/11, it was like, okay, this is horrific beyond comprehension. The loss is staggering, but it's comprehensible. This was a terrorist attack, but just a phrase that has been in my lexicon probably since I was 10 years old, and it happened here. But I mean, a plague, that's not something that it's destabilizing in a way that at times I think can feel psychedelic, because to me, this is one of the signatures of the psychedelic experience. And we're wrapping up now. We haven't talked about psychedelics, which is kind of cool in a way because, we have other things to talk about.
Yeah.
But one of the signatures of the psychedelic experience is it makes you question things, assumptions that are so deeply rooted that you don't even realize they're assumptions. You just think this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
This is what it's like to be me. This is to have these feelings, to have these thoughts. This is what it's like to live in this society with these social structures and these institutions and these, relationships between different socioeconomic castes. And then, you take 5 grams of mushrooms or whatever, and you're like, whoa, no, it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
These are choices I've made that have constituted my personality. These are choices society has made.
Yeah.
And it can be distressing to have everything called into question, but also liberating.
Yeah.
And I think some of that is going on with this, where it's like, oh yeah, we thought the world was one way and one thing. And no, the range of possibilities for better or for worse have suddenly been shown to be much wider than at least what I realized.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's crazy.
Next.
And the other thing that's a parallel that's interesting, right, is when you are in that state, in a psychedelic state, there's an absolute knowledge of knowing of things that you all have always known. That is just
quality, they call it. Which
you're just like, that. And then, but when you come back, you're like, I'm never going to forget this. And then you come back and you're like, there was something really important that I could tell, but I don't remember it. And I want the pandemic to be gone because I don't want to remember how horrible it was going through it, but it will always inform going forward. And you need it to disappear. You need to be free of it a little bit, I guess, to navigate this plane. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't still be tripping and drive a car and and pick your kids up at school or get on stage. But
it's not good.
Yeah. Well, I think it's integration is what we're talking about in the psychedelic context. How do you integrate the experience? And I hadn't thought of that before, but if we're going to extend the parallel, how do we integrate this trip that we've all just been on?
Yeah.
And
as
it's
a global,
no one is really talking about that. I think because it's just so overwhelming what we've been through. And, as I'm saying this, I realize this is also must strike some people as incredibly privileged, because let me be specific about what I've been through. I was living with a woman who I was in love with for 4 months, at a beautiful home in the San Francisco Bay Area, a relative who was away. I was staying rent free. Then I was with my family in the Boston area with also a lot of love and stability. I did not lose anyone I'm close to from COVID. In fact, no one I'm very close to even had one person I'm close to had a difficult case of COVID. So I was insulated from death and severe illness in a way that obviously millions, tens of millions of people weren't. In terms of loved ones. And so, there's I do want to call that out as I'm talking about trauma, and I'm not backing off of that. I believe I have experienced the trauma, and you have experienced the trauma, but there are people who have experienced, I don't want to say deeper traumas because of course it's subjective, but have experienced vastly more challenging and painful circumstances than everybody's we have.
Everybody's worst day is still their worst day, right? So
it's a great way to put it.
It's just like whatever your experience was, we all lived it together in a different way, and that's so smart. We have to integrate it now. And
what does that fucking look like,
man?
I mean, who do we turn to for guidance? Maybe it's the same places whatever we found comfort and wisdom before, whether it's spiritual traditions, meditative practices. I don't know. I don't know.
We're not gonna crack it today, but man, it is so good to see you, dude. I
likewise.
Like if I didn't have all other responsibilities, we could just yammer for days. But dude, the world is coming back. We'll be back on shows and things, and I'd love to see you, if we cross paths in the same city or something. But
I was going to be doing, I had shows scheduled in LA at the Lyric Hyperion for, I think it was June or May 2020. So they're still closed, but that is on my radars. I do want to come back to the LA area.
And I am remiss. I can't believe I haven't actually been to a performance. It just never worked out. Like I know in San Francisco, I was going to be there, and so I'm going to see it now when it's back. So I'm so excited for that.
No, for sure. But it's been great seeing you. Honestly, with this podcast, a big part of my motivation, I was like, man, I just haven't talked to Matt in like a couple of years. So let's just have a conversation, and might as well record it too. But
I love it, dude. It's so good to see you, man. And I'm going to put show notes to everything, and I can't wait to watch the trip report.
Yeah,
and I'm sure it's right now. I'm sure it's amazing. And if there's anything you need, obviously always reach out, dude. And let's do this again. It's my fucking podcast, so I can have you on as much as I want.
Love to.
So, if you have something you want to talk about and just run ideas, dude, and we either release it, record it, doesn't matter. But like, you're a good shit, and I really appreciate the way you think about things. And I think together we think about things in new ways together, and I love that. So I'd love to, keep that going, and whatever, man, whatever you need, and whenever you feel like shooting the shit, just hit me up, man.
I appreciate that, and I will take you up on that soon. Yeah. Well, great seeing you,
brother.
Thanks for having me on, and look forward to talking again soon. Anything
to plug before I go, or nothing solid? Just come see you in New York if you're in New York. Look for shows.
Yeah, come see me. I mean, I'll stuff will be posted on the internet, whatever I'm doing, wherever I am. And
your socials, your plug your social media for all the kids.
Sure. Yeah, it's most of them are Atom Strauss, ATOM, like atoms, atomic mass, ATOM, STRAUSS. That's Instagram and Twitter. And then my website, The Mushroom Cure, is the one I update more frequently. And then also AdamStrauss.com, TheMushroomCure.com, and AdamStrauss.com.
Right on. So, all right, brother. Be well. It's so good to see you. Take care, sir.
You too, man. Take care.
Should I try to resist when, baby, I know too well that I've got you under my skin? I'd sacrifice anything come what might for the sake